Now, in this case, the prosecution says, well, you know, if she died of a cardiac arrhythmia, she'd been in that bed dead. Well, you know what happens in life and in death? We don't get to pick our times as when something's supposed to happen. We don't get to pick the exact location when it should occur, where it should occur. So in this particular case, I'm saying to you, and I say talk about logic and common sense, and I say to you, isn't it just as logical to believe that Laura Dickinson could have just as easily been sitting on the bed? I don't know whether she had her clothes on. I don't know, had she been to the bathroom before. I don't know whether or not, I know she was on a period, but I don't know whether or not she had dropped her tampon. Neither does the prosecution. Neither does the government in this case. All we know is Laura Dickinson just as easy could have been sitting on the bed, attempts to get up. Does that cause a ripple? I'm sure it does. And she falls down. Now we know one thing, that the dormitory floor underneath the carpet, and although all of us who've been to college certainly know, you got a cement floor with some basic cheap carpet on top of it, but it's really thin. If in fact Mr. Orange Taylor did the things that Mr. Longborough said he did, he comes into the room, grabs her on the bed, kills her while rapes her while taking her clothes off. She doesn't make a sound. Apparently turns her around, puts her on the floor, either after having sex in the bed or apparently having sex on the floor. But we know, based upon the sperm, I assume it's the assertion of the prosecution that he had the sex in the bed. If you had the sex in the bed, then why are we turning her around to get on the floor? Logic, common sense. Why, if you already have the woman in the bed, allegedly you're on top of the woman, you're having sex, why do you have to turn around and put her on the floor unless she was already on the floor when you found her? No reason to turn around. If you're going to strong arm her and subdue her on the bed, have your sex there. You might say, well, gee, Mr. Keel, there's a sperm on the bed, so I want you to answer that. Why don't you answer that for us? That's what we want you to answer that. I'm going to. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to. Mr. Taylor did enter the room. Did Mr. Taylor masturbate? I told you, as perverse as it is, he masturbated in the room. And did he get sperm on Laura Dickinson? Yes, he did. Did he get it on her bed? Yes, he did. I told you in the opening statement, I said, I don't contest the sperm being there because I know it's there. I know it's there. But if you're going to murder a person, and as the prosecution has now tried to suggest, and they had to change the theory because they couldn't prove the other part, so they changed it. Now they're saying, well, you know, there's only a couple drops of sperm because he had like a pre-ejaculation because he couldn't complete the act itself. Well, the reason why that's changed because he can't show any penetration. And you have to say something to try to get the person convicted. So in this particular case, he said he didn't complete the act. But if you kill the person, or if you subdue them and render them unconscious, well, gee, the easiest thing in the world is to have some sex with them. It's not very difficult to do. That's why I asked Dr. Casson, I said, Doctor, if a person, and he almost laughed at me, if a person is rendered unconscious, I mean, can't you take advantage of them and have sex? Of course you can. They can't move. Of course you can have sex. So why would you not have a incomplete act when you can have full gratification? Since apparently you're a rapist and you're coming there to rape women, hey, succeed and complete the rape. Well, Mr. Longworth has suggested to you, well, you know, the ejaculation was on his shorts and in the panties, and that's why he stole the panties. Now, let's talk about a little logic and common sense. You got a woman on the bed. You got her subdued. She's simply lying there for your taking. Then I guess you pull out some panties and you masturbate on the panty. Well, then put the panties in and never complete the act, but you try to put it in because you said you had penetration because you found sperm on the bed, and the bed contained a mixed sample, so he must have touched her vagina area, and that's why the sperm on the bed has a mixed sample. Well, let's talk about that. That means that the penis, and excuse me for being so graphic, but we told you there's going to be some graphic language when we started. That means that the penis had to have actually touched the vaginal area to get the vaginal fluid, or it had to, more than touch, just about penetrate it, or in the immediate area, to have vaginal fluid on a penis with sperm on the bed. We know that didn't happen. How do we know? You look at the evidence in the case. The evidence, not speculation. How do we know that? Because, one, they collected samples and compiled what's called a rape kit. It's called a rape kit. The rape kit itself was negative. What do they put in the rape kit? Well, you get vaginal swabs, anal swabs, and swabs of your oral swabs, mouth, to see whether or not there was any sexual activity. Goes out to a lab, it's tested, see if there was any sexual activity. It was negative. It was negative. Now, there was a collection kit for pubic hairs. And why does that become important? Because when you're close to a person, pubic hairs, as the forensic scientist told you, they rub. You could even deposit a hair by sitting next to a person, she said. So if you're going to have sex or get up on a person enough to penetrate or near penetrate to get vaginal fluids, you should have some pubic hairs. Mr. Orange Taylor initially had a long cornrows, long afro type situation, and had cornrows. None of his hair is there, none of his pubic hair. Now, you recall that during the course of the testimony, one of the scientists said, we thought we had a hair. I think it was Jennifer Doreen. We thought we had a hair. We sent it out to the lab for testing, but it came back animal hair. So you know they're testing for hairs. This is a white woman, this is a black man, this is not rocket science. You can tell whether his hair is on a white woman with blonde hair. This is not rocket science. You know it wasn't there. Because it wasn't there. Just that simple.